I think all of us thought going into this draft, whoever gets the number 3 pick, they're going to take Ace Bailey, right?
Take him.
But one thing that happened that is amazing, they told us he was 6'10" and he's 6'7.5".
Brother, they were telling us he was 6'11".
Yo, first of all,
I covered early on Alabama Rutgers. It was like game 2 or 3. I was in studio, and I watched Dylan Harper, and I went, "This is Cade Cunningham 2.0. Like, this guy's incredible."
Yeah.
But then every time Ace Bailey took a shot, I went, "And he's 6'11", and he's 6'7.5".
Right? Like, how did nobody call bullshit on this? Like, the difference between 6'7.5" and 6'10", 6'11" is nuts. But that's what they told us. And I will say this, though. He sure felt like he was 6'10" those few times I watched him
really
play.
Long. Yeah.
So there are people who believe that he is intentionally tanking his draft stock to get to whichever team that he wants to get to. And I've heard a couple teams I don't think is responsible for
New Orleans and Washington.
Yeah, okay, so New Orleans was the one that I had heard.
That's crazy,
right? If your plan is to get to New Orleans, I can kind of see it. If your plan is to get to the Wizards, I can only assume that you guys are losers. Like, why would you want? I'm 44 years old, and the Wizards haven't won 50 games in my life. I've been doing that bit right there for 15 years. No correction, for 18 years. And I've never had to stop. I think they got to 49 one time. But I admit this also. There is a certain level of assumption that I make about how good Mr. Bailey is based on the fact that he has convinced all these people to call him Ace. Like, I feel like...
What's his actual name?
Aaron. Airus, I believe.
Airus.
Yeah, let me look this up. But yeah, you get everybody to call you a name like Ace, that I'm like Airious.
Dude, we called Daniel Gibson Booby his entire career.
Yeah, but see, that's different though, right? Booby is clearly what your mama and your people called you, and then somebody went home and
Ace?
No, but Ace for like that's. I'm trying to think of other nicknames. Like that's like when they call you Shaq. You're something if they make the decision to call you Shaq. You're a big guy, if nothing else, if they decide to call you Shaq. So you're
saying the name Ace, you have to be a top 3 pick.
Got it. That implies that you a beast for real. You know? Like those people who name their kids, actually it's going to be kind of funny. These people who name their kids King.
You're an asshole.
No, I didn't do it on purpose. It dawned on me as I started. I didn't do it on purpose. No, but King and Prince are different spaces, right?
My son's name is Prince.
Yeah, Prince is a different space. But when you go all the way to King, right? Because look, when you name him Prince, he's still a prince, right? Like he's still in this space. When you go all the way to King, that motherfucker better be a beast.
Well, you know, our second child, which we haven't created yet, but we might go Lord Lefkoe. You know?
That's what I'm saying.
Really?
That's what I'm saying. Like, once you go there, you are telling this kid, the expectations are very clear. Like,
yeah,
Prince,
honestly, I don't, after calling the first one Prince, I don't know where I'm going on the second one. Because I can't be like, this is Prince and this is Todd.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
see, to me, once you go with naming the kid Prince,
okay, how did this turn into this? We're focused on Ace.
Okay, I'm just saying. All I'm saying is this. Prince sounds like you may never have to get a job, right? King sounds like you're the ruler of the world. There's space between those two things, right? Naming him Prince actually makes you king, right? We're going to start calling
quick aside. Quick aside. Have you heard of the Mariners catcher Cal Rowley's nickname? The Big Dumper.
Oh, I did. Nah, can't.
Incredible.
Can't
yes, I knew you didn't know. For those that don't watch baseball, I'm watching a lot of baseball right now. Cal Rowley leads major leagues with 32 home runs. He's on pace for 67. He's a freaking catcher. And his very popular nickname is the Big Dumper, which a teammate gave to him because you know why. Nah,
buddy. We're not taking that out of the locker room. Or excuse me, the clubhouse. Sorry.
I was going to say, but now the nickname has taken on a life of its own. Even his mom said, hey, I'm not really a fan of it, but it's so popular.
Yeah.
Now you're getting known for your butt. You're the Big Dumper.
You got to come up with another one. Because your partners ain't even supposed to know that. You know, like that.
Baseball dudes are kind of weird.
Baseball is that is. Yeah. Baseball
made me think of this. Do we look back at some of these nicknames with a little bit difference now? The Big Unit. You know, Randy Johnson.
Yeah, I admit that even then I was kind of like, what are we going for here?
Oscar Robertson, the Big O.
I see the vision.
And then I still think the name that has cracked me out my entire life is Magic Johnson, but that's just me.
Look, see, okay, this is another great point in line with what I was saying about Ace. Now, granted, they didn't start calling Magic Johnson Magic until college, but the point of how cold Magic Johnson is we just call him that. We don't even act like it's weird. We just call him that. Who's that? Magic. You know how good you have to be for us to be like, yeah, you're Magic. We didn't walk around calling Jordan Air.
He had a few good nicknames. The Black Cat.
Black Cat is the Black Cat is.
But yeah, okay. So my thing with Ace, and I thought as a Philadelphia fan, I was very offended when he turned down the workout and the interview when apparently they had reservations. So, man, tough get at the Continental in Philly or the Four Seasons. But then also threw out the first pitch for the Mets the same weekend. That to me was diabolical, was for him to be like, Daryl Morey, I'm not meeting with you. And now I'm wearing the blue hat of the New York Mets was crazy. I just feel like he doesn't fit. Like once it came out that he wasn't 6'11", then like you start looking at the advanced analytics, and the advanced analytics community doesn't like him at all in terms of like assists and athleticism and all this stuff. Then I just started going, these are the actions of someone who knows the Sixers are likely not going to take him and are trying to say, you know what? I don't even want to go there. So for me, it seems more defensive than aggressive. I don't know. I mean, the Sixers, how can you trust anything they do? But at the same time, you talk about him wanting to go to Washington. The Pacers aren't going to have Halliburton next season. The Celtics aren't going to have Tatum next season. The Knicks don't have a coach right now. No one trusts the Cleveland Cavaliers for anything. Orlando is now a top 3 team in the East, according to Vegas. And I'm sitting there going, the Pistons are 19-1 to win the East. That might not be crazy. And then meanwhile, you got a maybe healthy Embiid who won the MVP. If Paul George comes back to life in year 2, you got Halliburton, you got McCain, you got all these guys, and you add Ace Bailey. Ace Bailey can learn from Paul George. Like, it's a really good situation if you're Ace Bailey. You got a coach that won a championship. It's just people go, well, Philly's going to Philly. Like, it's a really good spot for Ace, but I just don't want the guy that's shorter than we thought he was, slower than he thought he was, and doesn't show up to workouts. Like that guy doesn't have a good track record in my mind, because Anthony Edwards didn't go work out for teams. But then I put on Anthony Edwards at Georgia highlights last night, and I went, oh, no, he didn't have to go to workout.
No,
this is a different guy.
Yeah, he's in the Deion Sanders. Where are y'all picking? 18? I ain't going to be there at 18.
I'm not going to be there. There's a difference. Ace is not that. That was different.
Here's my Ace Bailey advanced statistic. And it's also a Dylan Harper advanced statistic. You're telling me that we're looking at 2 of the 3 top picks in the draft, and y'all didn't make the tournament? Like, I don't know how
Simmons fatigue.
Bingo. I don't know how either one of them shakes that, because we tried to write that off with Ben Simmons. And I think
Markelle Fultz.
Yeah, and to be fair,
now, Anthony Edwards was under 500, but that was different.
Yeah, but I also think, and I felt the same way about Fultz. Like, we never saw the Fultz that people were talking about that got us in. But with Simmons, to be fair to him, what doomed him is probably not what made them a team that didn't make the tournament, right? Like, what ultimately caught up with him. But these two guys, it's 2 of you. How in the world 2 of you get to play at the same time and y'all didn't make the tournament? I don't care if you're Rutgers or not. Why the hell did y'all go there anyway? I know, but
same reason AJ Debanso went to BYU.
No, that's still that is the low.
Their
key.
Games will be on TNT this fall.
That is the low key amazing story of the year that's coming up. Is how do you say his last name again?
I think it's Debanso.
Okay, so it is this young man. I can't remember where in Africa he is from, but he's an African cat, and he went to high school in Utah because the dude that owns the Jazz floated the bread for him to go to high school.
Shout out Ryan Smith.
Yeah, Ryan Smith, yes. And then he's also the guy that owns their hockey team. But anyway, then they got him to go to BYU, because watch out, BYU is going to be a player in this NIL era because that church got cash. So they got him to go there. And obviously the plan for Utah is to try to then draft him, but that's not really the draft of the lottery doesn't work that well. So how is Ryan Smith going to figure out how to get the full payoff on his investment?
Just to clarify, he grew up in Massachusetts. Now he is of Congolese and Jamaican origin. Okay. His father grew up in France, but he is a Boston kid.
Okay. Thank you. That is wait a minute.
I just wanted to clarify.
So he got a Congolese Boston accent?
With Congolese, Jamaican, yeah. What a combo. And now he's been hanging out with Mormons for like the last few years.
I don't know. I can't. I got so many questions about that.
Listen, my father and mother-in-law, when they came over from Nigeria to go to school, the first place they moved to was Utah. And they were there for 2-3 years. And they said it was like look, Nigerian people love everybody for the most part, but they say the people in Utah were the nicest people ever. I don't think I told this story before, but when my wife's oldest brother was born in a Utah hospital, there was a line around the corner of doctors. And my wife's parents were in line, and one of the doctors came and got him and said, "You shouldn't be in this line." And they were in the line because none of them had seen a black newborn before.
Wow.
And it was like 40 doctors and nurses. But of course, like, Nigerians, they were like, of course everybody wants to see our child. He is the chosen child. Like, this child is the greatest. That's why they call their kids Prince.
They have never seen brilliance.
Yes.
Like this.
But I had a great time at the Salt Lake City All-Star game. I mean, you can't really go out till 2-3 in the morning, so you can't live that life, but I thought it was fun.
I've had multiple people tell me that the wildest night of their lives were in Salt Lake City.
That's so scary. I will say this, the one player that I would take after Cooper Flagg and Dylan Harper that I'm not really seeing people talk about, it's the BYU kid that's not going to be there, which is Aigor Demond. He's like this 6'9" point guard. Go on the YouTube, watch the highlights. Because I have to do March Madness, and so you watch a lot of college basketball, and I just watched this 6'9" point guard stopping and hitting threes and diming, and that's my guy. I think it's important to have a guy. You can argue about the Ace Baileys and stuff, but who's your guy? My guy's Aigor Demond.
I can be honest with you, brother.
Never seen him.
You could have told me BYU had a 3-legged, red-headed Chinese point guard, and I'd have had no clue whatsoever. I'm familiar with that dude who plays for Florida.
Walter Clayton Jr.
There we go. Oh, yeah, Pops. That is a very Pops name.
Walter? Yeah,
Walter
that is
Clayton.
A tough one. It does. It sounds like a fake name that you give it.
Honestly, his dad is too young to be Walter Sr. Like, his dad should be a junior or a third if we're still out here cranking out Walters.
In our profession of broadcasting, how do draft experts avoid all blowback for being wrong all the time?
A recognition that it's a very difficult job.
But then they get called experts. So how do we simultaneously go, no one can be good at this, and then be like, and now our expert?
I'm just saying.
How do we do that?
Ty Cobb was the all-time leader in batting average at 367, right? This is more like a batting average sport than it is a free throw percentage sport that we're talking about. That is the argument.
Because that made me think of Mel Kiper, who went very viral this year for arguing about Shedeur Sanders, who I kind of feel like is suffering the same fate as Ace Bailey from this.
But getting horrendous advice from whoever's telling you what to do?
Number one. But I also think, number two, you and I have both worked for websites that it was very important for clicks.
Yes.
And as soon as a draft would end, it would go, okay, here are the first round mock draft for next year. And because we worked for those websites, we knew, well, this is a bunch of crap. Like, who knows? Like, they're just taking the top ranked sophomores or juniors, right? Shedeur was listed as a top 2 pick. Ace Bailey was listed as a top 3 pick before their seasons began. And I feel like they had it in their heads the entire season. I'm that guy. So I'm going to go through the draft prospect as the guy from a year ago. And people were like, well, why would you think this? Well, because the entire offseason and beginning of the year, you called me a top 3 pick. I think these bullshit mock drafts, these way too early mock drafts that we know are nonsense, is impacting the youth.
Yes.
That's what I
think there's something to that, right? And this is the generation that comes up with star lists, right? So like you come up as whatever star guy. Now, of course, Shedeur Sanders should know I came up as a no star or a 2-star or a 3-star or whatever it was, right? So these things can only have so much credence.